I'm like, bro, you got to stay out the way, bro.
Yungeen Ace just revealed what he claims were Foolio's last words, and what he said has everyone shook. Let's just say, Foolio didn't go out quietly, but Ace's revelation is stirring things up again, and Foolio's affiliates are definitely not happy about it.
Yeah, shit happened. Shit happened to everybody. Died first though.
The war in Jacksonville is starting up again. Let me put you up to speed. The last words that changed everything. It's been months since Foolio's death, but things are starting to heat up again. It all kicked off when a clip of Yungeen Ace talking about their last conversation on IG Live started trending. According to Ace, what they said in that moment wasn't what anyone expected. It wasn't beef, it was real. It showed a different side of both of them, one the streets rarely get to see.
I'm like, bro, you got to stay out the way, bro. You know, and they love y'all here, like, stay out the way, real shit.
Wait, did Ace just say he told Foolio he loved him? After everything they'd been through, the diss tracks, the shootings, the disrespect on social media, Ace's final words were a warning to stay safe because he cared. Not everybody's buying it. A lot of people think he was trolling. During that same IG Live, Ace claimed they were on good terms. He said, "It's so funny because we were cool and shit."
Real shit, like, you know, I fuck with your real shit, stay out the way. So, you know what I'm saying, to all the kids, y'all stay out the streets.
This wasn't just about Foolio anymore. Ace was using this moment, this tragedy, this loss of life, to send a message to every young person listening. Stay out the streets. Get away from the violence. Find another way to handle your problems. Don't let pride and ego and the need for respect lead you down a path that ends in death or prison. But how the hell did they go from being bitter enemies who were making diss tracks about each other to having conversations where one was telling the other, "I love you, stay safe"? According to what Ace revealed, they had been communicating through DMs on social media and had even talked on the Clubhouse app, having private conversations that nobody else knew about while maintaining their public beef for the cameras and the fans.
So it's just like, I don't know them, so I don't be getting what's be going on. I don't know them. Yeah.
Well, you've never met him in person. Have the
Never.
two of you actually talked on the phone?
Never talk.
Even more revealing was what Foolio had said in his own interviews before his death, which now takes on a completely different meaning, knowing what we know about their private communications. When asked about the possibility of ending the beef with Ace,
It probably happen sooner than later. You never know what God got planned, you know? I told him that a couple times, you know? We be talking time to time, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you never know what can happen. You know, like, it ain't no, you know what I'm saying? We want to kill each other. Nah, we just mutual, you know?
we just mutual, a far cry from the cold-blooded hatred that dominated their public image. But that moment of peace starts to feel like total BS once you remember who got arrested for Foolio's murder.
The shooters are members of or affiliated with rival gangs of Jones that go by ATK and 1200.
Still, it's important to mention that Sheriff T.K. Waters made one thing clear. During a press conference, there is no investigation into Yungeen Ace at this time. This statement from law enforcement suggests that while people who were associated with Ace's crew might have been involved in the murder, Ace himself wasn't directing it, coordinating it, or even aware that it was going to happen. The most heartbreaking part of Ace's revelation was how he talked about warning Foolio multiple times, how he had tried repeatedly to get through to him about the dangers he was facing. You could hear the regret in his voice, the pain of someone who had tried to prevent a tragedy, but wasn't able to save someone he had grown to care about.
I just see death so much.
But again, not everyone's buying it. A lot of people still think he's trolling. So let's rewind and see how it all started, because many believe their relationship was never as real as Ace is now making it seem. The complex history of Yungeen Ace and Foolio's relationship. The story of Yungeen Ace and Julio Foolio's relationship is one that's been written in blood, sealed with tragedy, and ended in a way that had the whole hip-hop community shook to their core. Yungeen Ace, whose government name is Keonta Bullard, was deep in the mix with a crew called ATK, and for those who might not be hip to the street terminology, that stands for Ace's Top Killers. Just from that name alone, you can already tell these ain't some studio gangsters playing dress up for the cameras. On the flip side, you had Julio Foolio, born Charles Andrew Jones II, who was plugged in with KTA, which translates to kill them all. Now, when you got two crews with names like that operating in the same city, beefing over territory, respect, and street credibility, you already know it's gonna be some serious smoke in the air. The whole damn thing really started escalating back in 2017 when something happened that would change the trajectory of everybody involved. Foolio's cousin, Zion Malik Brown, got murdered, and that death is what many people believe sparked what became known throughout the South as the Jacksonville Gang War. Now, when family gets touched in the streets, Ace, that's when shit goes from regular beef to blood feud real quick. That's when it stops being about respect or territory and becomes about honor, revenge, and making sure that disrespect gets answered with interest. Foolio wasn't the type of young nigga to just take that laying down, and neither was anyone else connected to his circle. In the hood, when your cousin, your blood gets taken out, you don't just file a police report and hope for justice through the system. That ain't how the streets work, and it damn sure ain't how young men who've been failed by every institution in their lives handle business. The code demands retaliation, demands that blood be answered with blood, and demands that nobody gets to slide after touching your family. But here's where this story gets even more tragic, even more up, and even more real than most people can handle. In retaliation for what happened to Zion, Ace got shot 8 times in June 2018. 8 times, man. Let that sink in for a minute. That's not just a warning shot to send a message or some scare tactic to make him back down. That's somebody literally trying to erase your entire existence from this earth. That's attempted murder with extreme prejudice. And the only reason Ace is still breathing today is because God had other plans for him. But while Ace managed to survive that hail of bullets, and the fact that he lived through getting shot 8 times is nothing short of miraculous. The same couldn't be said for everyone who was with him that night. His brother Trayvon Bullard and 2 others didn't make it out alive. So now you got both sides that done lost family, both sides that got innocent blood on their hands, both sides that ain't backing down, and both sides that feel like they got to keep going until somebody pays the ultimate price. What made this whole situation even more wild and even more public was how it played out on social media and in their music. This wasn't just street beef that stayed confined to the blocks where it started. It became public entertainment, viral content, and must-see TV for people who had never set foot in Jacksonville, but were glued to their phones watching the drama unfold in real time. Foolio would post straight disrespectful content about the victims on social media, talking slick about dead people and basically pouring lighter fluid on a fire that was already burning out of control. And Ace wasn't staying quiet either, because in the streets, silence can be interpreted as weakness, and weakness can get you killed. The whole thing reached a fever pitch when Ace released the diss track Who I Smoke in March 2021, featuring Spinna Benz, Wappa Wit Da Choppa, and Fast Money Goon. This track was diabolical, man. They took Vanessa Carlton's innocent pop song 1,000 Miles and twisted it into something dark, sinister, and directly targeting Foolio and his whole crew. They were literally rapping about smoking dead people, turning murder into music, and making the whole beef into entertainment for the masses.
But you're the one that actually has the most to lose.
Yeah, that's crazy though.
Foolio wasn't about to let that slide, so he fired back with his own diss track over Fantasia's When I See You. And just like that, their musical rivalry was in full swing. But this wasn't just entertainment for people scrolling through YouTube or Spotify. This was real life spilling over into the booth, real pain being turned into profit, and real consequences hanging over every bar they spit. Each diss track was like adding gasoline to a house fire, and everybody in Jacksonville knew that eventually somebody was gonna get burned. The feud contributed to at least 7 deaths among Jacksonville rappers, showing just how real and how deadly this whole situation had become. 7 young black men lost their lives over this beef. 7 sons who ain't coming home to their mothers. 7 friends who ain't gonna be at the next barbecue. 7 talents who ain't gonna get the chance to grow up and become something greater than their circumstances. Meanwhile, Foolio kept getting caught up in the violence, like a magnet for trouble that he couldn't escape no matter how far he traveled or how successful his music became. He survived multiple shootings, including being grazed by a bullet in 2021 and getting shot in the foot in October 2023. Each time he made it out alive, it seemed like he was living on borrowed time, like death was playing with him before coming to collect what was owed. The streets had his name written down in permanent ink, and everybody who knew him, friends, family, fans, and enemies, understood that it was just a matter of when, not if, something catastrophic was going to happen. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. Despite all this history, all this bloodshed, all this pain that had been building up for years, like pressure in a cooker, something started to change between Ace and Foolio in the months leading up to that fateful night in June 2024. According to what came out later, these 2 young men who had been at each other's throats for damn near a decade started to reach some kind of understanding, some kind of peace that nobody knew existed.
But let's just put it all behind us.
Like I said, like you never know what God got planned. Like, you know, we mutual right now.
The complexity of their relationship, from bitter enemies to something approaching, mutual respect and understanding, sets the stage for what would become their final conversation. And those last words that Ace revealed, they paint a picture that's way different from what most people expected, way more human than the image they projected to the world, and way more heartbreaking when you understand the context. As we move forward in this story, remember that this ain't just about 2 rappers beefing over some studio shit. This is about young black men trapped in a cycle of violence that's been going on for generations in communities communities that America forgot about. This is about what happens when poverty, lack of opportunity, systemic racism, and street culture collide to create environments where survival becomes more important than living. This is about children who grew up too fast, who learned to handle guns before they learned to handle their emotions, and who found fame and fortune but couldn't escape the circumstances that made them who they were. And most importantly, this is about how even in the darkest situations, even when people seem to be past the point of redemption, there can still be moments of humanity that shine through the darkness. But we'll get to that. Now, we need to understand how Foolio's life came to a tragic end on June 23rd, 2024, and how that event would force Ace to speak publicly about their private moments in a way that nobody saw coming, revealing truths that would change everything we thought we knew about their relationship. The night everything changed, Foolio's final hours. June 23rd, 2024, was supposed to be a celebration, a moment of joy in a life that had seen way too much pain and violence. Foolio was turning 26 years old, and like any young man who'd made it this far, despite all the odds stacked against him like a house of cards in a hurricane, he wanted to party hard and enjoy the fruits of his labor. But in the streets, especially when you're somebody like Foolio, somebody with a target on his back, somebody with enemies who wake up every morning thinking about your demise, celebrations can quickly turn into commemorations, and birthday parties can become funeral preparations before you even realize what's happening. The whole situation started innocent enough at an Airbnb in Tampa, where Foolio had planned to celebrate his 26th birthday with his crew, his day ones, and people who had been riding with him through all the ups and downs of his career. Tampa was supposed to be neutral territory, a place where he could let his guard down just a little bit, where he could be Charles Jones instead of Foolio, where he could just be a young man celebrating another year of life instead of a target in an ongoing war. The group ended up moving to a home 2 suites hotel near the University of South Florida, and they were probably thinking this was just a minor inconvenience, a small bump in the road that wouldn't affect their plans to celebrate. But when you're somebody like Foolio, somebody with enemies, somebody who's been shot before, somebody who knows there are people out there who would love nothing more than to catch you slipping, moving locations when you're not expecting to is dangerous as hell. Every change in plan is a potential security risk. Every unexpected move is an opportunity for your enemies to adjust their plans and possibly get the drop on you. Foolio had been posting about his birthday celebrations on Instagram throughout the day and evening. And in today's social media world, that's like sending out a GPS location with real-time updates to anyone who might be looking for you. Every Instagram story, every Snapchat post, every tag location becomes a breadcrumb trail that the wrong people can follow, a digital footprint that can lead predators right to your door. But when you're young and feeling invincible, especially on your birthday, especially when you're surrounded by your people and feeling like you're on top of the world, you don't always make the smartest decisions about operational security. What happened next was something straight out of a nightmare, something that would haunt everyone who knew Foolio for the rest of their lives. Around 4:40 a.m. on June 23rd, 2024, Foolio was ambushed in the hotel parking lot by multiple gunmen in what was clearly a coordinated, premeditated attack. This wasn't no random shooting that happened because someone was in the wrong place at the wrong time. This wasn't some robbery gone wrong where somebody was trying to get a quick lick and things escalated. This was calculated, this was planned, this was personal, and this was designed to send a message that would echo through the streets of Jacksonville and beyond. The attack involved some serious firepower, a handgun equipped with an extended high-capacity magazine that fired more than 30 times, and 2 rifles fitted with brass catchers. Let me break down what this means for people who might not be hip to street knowledge. Brass catchers are devices that prevent spent shell casings from being scattered around the crime scene, which means these shooters came prepared not just to kill, but to cover their tracks. They weren't acting on impulse or emotion. They had thought this through, planned it out, and equipped themselves like professionals. This was an execution, not a crime of passion. 5 individuals were involved in the attack, with 3 of them actively firing their weapons. Think about that for a minute. 5 people coordinated to hunt down one young man on his birthday. 5 people dedicated their time, energy, and freedom to ending the life of someone who was just trying to celebrate making it to 26. Foolio didn't stand a chance against those odds, against that level of preparation, against that much firepower concentrated on taking his life. The investigation that followed revealed just how deep this conspiracy went and how much planning had been involved. The Tampa Police Department, working in collaboration with other law enforcement agencies, used surveillance video, license plate readers, and phone logs to piece together exactly what happened. Modern technology meant that the killers left a digital trail that investigators could follow, even though they had tried to be smart about covering their tracks. What the investigation revealed was chilling and showed just how premeditated this murder really was. The suspects had tracked Foolio from the original Airbnb location to the hotel, indicating that this wasn't wasn't just a lucky break where they happened to find him at the hotel. They had been watching, following, and adjusting their plans in real time as the birthday celebration moved from one location to another. This was surveillance-level stalking that required patience, coordination, and resources. 5 suspects were eventually arrested and charged in connection with the murder. Isaiah Jermaine Chance, 21, Alicia Latoya Andrews, 21, Sean Andre Gathright, 18, Rashad Travion Murphy, 30, and Davion Vershar Murphy, 27. These ain't just random street dudes who got caught up in the moment. These are people with ages ranging from 18 to 30, suggesting a mix of young soldiers and more experienced players who knew what they were doing. All of them are facing charges of first-degree premeditated murder with a firearm and conspiracy to commit first-degree premeditated murder with a firearm. We're talking about life in prison type of charges, the kind of consequences that mean these people will never see the streets again if they're convicted. But here's where it gets even more complicated and even more revealing about the nature of street politics. The motive appears to be rooted in the long-standing gang feud between Foolio's 6-block KTA gang and rival gangs ATK and 1200, the same beef that had been going on for years, the same conflict that had already claimed multiple lives, the same war that everyone knew would eventually claim more victims unless somebody found a way to stop it. What made the situation even more controversial and explosive was what happened in the immediate aftermath of Foolio's death. On the same day as Foolio's murder, Yungeen Ace released a song titled Do It, and the timing couldn't have been worse from a public relations standpoint. The lyrics and music video depicted a hotel parking lot killing, which some people interpreted as direct references to Foolio's murder, and the internet absolutely lost its collective mind. Then came the allegations that really set everything off and had people convinced that Ace was involved in the murder.
Hey, on everything I love, bro. On the dead homies, bro. I put it on everything, on my soul, on my kids. I'm the one that smacked Foolio that night when he got dropped at his birthday celebration, bro.
An anonymous claim surfaced on social media that Yungeen Ace had put a $10,000 bounty on Foolio's head.
Ace had that money on his head, you know. Ace had them put that 10K up. Told me to slide, told me to smack Fool.
Whether this claim was true or just someone trying to get attention and clout by associating themselves with a high-profile murder, it added fuel to an already explosive situation and made people even more convinced that Ace was somehow involved in orchestrating Foolio's death. But here's where the story takes a turn that nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, expected. About a month after Foolio's death, when the speculation and accusations had reached a fever pitch, Yungeen Ace decided to break his silence on July 21st, 2024. During an Instagram live session. What he said during that live session shocked everyone who was listening because it painted a completely different picture of their relationship than what people had assumed based on years of public beef and diss tracks.
Yeah, bro, like we cool, like we was cool and you feel me? Me and him, like we cool and I was just.
Ace denied any involvement in Foolio's murder and expressed genuine sympathy and grief by saying, "That's sad. I ain't gonna lie, bruh. Leave the streets alone, playa. I don't condone like that." The pain in his voice was real. You could hear it in the way his words came out, and it was clear that whatever had happened between them in the past, Ace wasn't celebrating Foolio's death. He was mourning it, and he was using the moment to send a message to other young people about staying away from the streets. Foolio was laid to rest on July 6th, 2024, at Edgewood Cemetery in Florida, surrounded by family and friends who knew him as Charles Jones rather than Julio Foolio, who remembered him as a son, a cousin, a friend, and a human being, rather than just a character in a street drama. What are your thoughts on Ace revealing Foolio's last words? Do you think there's more to the story? Share your thoughts in the comments below.